Just imagine this now. Okay, so as you know, um, people, if you have four arms, I mean, if two arms, if you have four limbs, if you got two arms, two legs, two eyes, two ears, etc., then those are the defining characteristics of a person, a human being. And we know from experience, from what we see, that this is how the vast majority of people look. Sometimes they even have hair growing out of their heads. But if you're a plant, there's many different varieties of plants. There's a lot of them are green, a lot of them are flowering plants. And for the most part, when you encounter a plant, you don't expect that the plant is going to be conversant, which is to say, by which I mean, for the most part, you don't expect to be able to talk to a plant or to be able to have a conversation with a plant. Or it's usually just people that you can talk to. You can't even talk to animals usually, but plants, that's pretty much out of the question, right? Let's just say that this phenomenon was reversed, but then suddenly you found that there were only certain people in the world left that were still in the human form with the four, the two limbs, the two arms, the two legs, and whatnot, and everything in twos, right? Because it's symmetrical. Because nature designed it that way, because it's symmetrical and has an aesthetic type of arrangement and beauty to it that propagates the continuation of the species. But let's just say that somehow this was reversed, and you don't know why, by what mechanism this was reversed. You just woke up one day, and you were one of the few remaining people that your soul inhabits this body of flesh and blood, bone, flesh, blood, bone, eyes, mouth, lips, skin, hair, oil, grease. In some cases, caked on makeup, clothing, the human form. And somehow you found that you went into work and you were the only person there that was in the human form. Everybody else was kind of like in plant form, but it was a different kind of, it was almost like kind of like some transmogrified or some kind of like shape-shifting type of plant, a shape-shifting plant that it could actually transmogrify itself into different shapes and, kind of like assume different shapes and forms and everything. And it's kind of like this, dynamic type of plant that could actually, this super intelligent kind of dynamic plant that could actually shape shift. And you were one of the few remaining people in the world who occupied the form of flesh and blood. Okay. And everybody else turned into a plant. So you go into work and everybody's like, so instead of plants, let's just say like everybody's like a shape-shifting plant at work where you work. So let's say you work at a law firm or something like that, or some kind of like an engineering firm or something like that, downtown or uptown or wherever the fuck you work. And everybody's like transmogrified into a shape-shifting plant. You're one of the few people that are remaining in the firm, in the company that I'm just hi Alex, I'm just letting my imagination run wild. This is my the improvisational comedy that I do. I'm just trying to just improvise some bizarro comedy. So even if I'm the only person enjoying it, it's still worth it. Anyways, everyone else has turned into a shape-shifting plant. and you're still in human form with flesh and blood, like 4 limbs, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head on, cranium, the head on your shoulders, the neck, maybe some hair, and some people have hair, some don't. Eyebrows, eyes, eyelashes. Oh, anyways, so everyone else is transmogrified into a shape-shifting plant, and you're still in the human form. But instead of plants, like, there's like plants. A lot of times you go to an office and you see, like, in a lot of cases, people have like a plant on the desk or the plants hanging. Different plants decor. Plants are actually good for the environment. They actually feed off oxygen to the environment. They're part of the whole cycle of they keep the ecosphere. They keep they keep everything, the whole ecosystem in balance and harmony. So plants are good for the environment. They give off oxygen. They purify the environment. They're very attractive to look at, especially especially weed. Not only is a weed a very beautiful looking plant with its seven different leaves in the pot leaf, but it's like if you smoke it, you get like a really nice sensation that transcends you into a different plane of existence too. But okay, so getting back to my point, you're in the office and like on the desk, on people's desks where they would normally have plants, they're like the flesh and blood people, but they're motionless, they're lifeless, but they're in the shape. Just as like in the prior situation, it was the plants that were lifeless and motionless and just sat there and just kind of like gave off oxygen and were good for the environment. It's the people in flesh and blood that were the ones that were actually assuming the role of the plant, and like just in the ecosystem, and kind of like just being people were being plants, flesh and blood, and they, this is the same kind of like physical form that people normally have, but they were kind of like the lifeless plants, and they were just kind of like even in offices, if they had like plants, so it was like shape-shifting plants that could transmogrify themselves in different shapes, were actually had flesh and blood people, almost similar to what it would look like. It was like if people were take people to the taxidermist and they were like stuffed and mounted and kind of and used in offices to beautify the office. and the plants were the things that were the sentient beings. See what I'm saying? See where I'm going with this? And so you're like, what the fuck is going on? Am I on some bizarro like acid trip or something? Or so you get in the office and you're like the only person there. Oh, thanks. That hasn't turned into a plant. And they're looking at you like, what the fuck is going on? Because it's like, it'd be kind of like the reverse situation. If you saw a sentient plant, well, I guess like theoretically, I guess like the praying mantis, no, was it the praying, not the praying, what am I talking about? What is that plant that actually, there's a plant that could actually open, it's got like jaws. Anyways, what was that plant called again? Anyways, so, Venus flytrap. The Venus flytrap. So the Venus flytrap. So someone else almost say like, is a Venus flytrap? Is it like, does it think? Does it have a sentience to it? Does it? But it's just. I think it's just some kind of like organic process in nature by which it's kind of like this. It's almost like the cycle of nature. It's like bees pollinate. Did you know that? Did you know that bees are really important for the fact that if we lose like a significant portion of the bee population, that's going to severely impact the crops, because the bees pollinate the crops, and they transfer like the seeds from one crop to another, and without so don't be killing too many bees, okay? Don't be spraying wasp spray and bee spray all over the fucking place, because the farmers are gonna be pissed off. Yeah, be nice to bees. Without them, no us. Exactly right. Anyways, so getting back to the plants. So all the plants, all the shape-shifting plants are looking at you like they can't believe that like there's actually somebody in the human flesh and blood form with four limbs, two legs, two arms, eyes, skin, hair, lips, is actually speaking. And then it's usually the plants, the shape-shifting plants that can speak. But in this case, it's a flesh and blood person that is actually doing the speaking. So in this kind of like bizarro kind of flip side, reverse world, it's like you go to the office and there's like, you just wake up one day and it's like all the people that were normally in the form of flesh and blood human beings are now plants. And they're like shape-shifting plants that can actually shift into different shapes and everything. So they're all looking at you bewildered because you're the one that's actually in the form of so like, what the fuck is this? And you're thinking the same thing. So that's kind of like the whole like that's the whole kind of a premise of like this new story that I just thought of now. I actually literally thought of the story like as I was like talking, but now I'm trying to think of like where I could take the story, where I could further take the story. I would to make it even more bizarre if possible. Let's see. I gotta think of something else. Let's see what else we got. What else do I got? Think. Let's see. So you got the okay, and what could make this story even more weird? I'm trying to think. So what the fuck's going on? No, we're thinking the same thing. What the fuck is going on? You're in the form of a plant. Judy over there, she used to have red hair. She was bespectacled. She had a hot ass, actually. I liked her in that tight mini skirt. And now she's a Venus flytrap. She literally transmogrified from a plant, from a hot redhead in a miniskirt into a Venus flytrap. And look at Susie over there, the one that used to have the beautiful dark hair. She transmogrified into see, what plant should I have Susie as? A pumpkin patch. She's a pumpkin patch, and each pumpkin in the patch has like some kind of like weird demonic face. So like in each pumpkin in the pumpkin patch, Susie went from to being a beautiful dark-haired girl with huge tits, a beautiful round ass, and she always walked around. I love the way I loved how she had her hair. It was kind of like it was almost like spiky, like a punk rocker. And now she transmogrified into a pumpkin patch. And a pumpkin patch that actually, by the way, a pumpkin patch that actually grows, not just like, it doesn't just like enjoy seasonal growth. This pumpkin patch grows year round. And so now Susie transmogrified from a beautiful, hot, dark-haired girl into a pumpkin patch. With, so far, there's like 1,000 pumpkins on the patch, each with a slightly different demonic-looking face on each pumpkin. And with fangs, though. Really sharp fangs. So you can imagine how lethal that would be. Susie, she transmogrified into a hot, dark-haired girl into a pumpkin patch. So she's got 1,000 heads. You better hope she doesn't spawn 1,000,000 heads. Can you imagine a pumpkin head? Can you imagine a pumpkin patch with? Can you imagine a pumpkin patch with 1,000,000 pumpkins on the same patch, each pumpkin resembling a demonic face? each pumpkin with a demonic face. So it's like if you carved a jack-o'-lantern, but you didn't have to carve it because the face was already there. It's like a demonic face with these fangs. Huh? You see where I'm going with that? Imagine if there was a million pumpkins, a million demonic heads on a pumpkin patch, and so I was trying to think of where the story could go to, and I think I got it. Now it's like we got a demonic pumpkin patch that Susie transmogrified into. So now I'm talking to Susie, and so Susie, what the fuck is going on? Oh my god, there are a million heads on her. Not a million, yeah, yeah. Oh, thanks for the what do they call that emoji? Okay, thanks. So now there's now there's a million heads on the pumpkin patch that is Susie, and this is a good bedtime story, isn't it? And so, but it keeps growing more. It keeps growing. It's growing exponentially. It threatens to actually cover the entire surface of the globe. The entire surface of the globe is threatened by this ever growing pumpkin patch that, as we speak, has a million heads on it. Someday it might have a billion heads on it. Demonic heads with a demonic face. Each demonic face on each different pumpkin, a slight variation of the one next to it. So I'm not talking to Susie, but it's kind of confusing because there's a million different heads on the pumpkin patch that is Susie. And as I talk to her, they're all talking at the same time. All these heads are talking at the same time. So it's kind of hard to decipher what any one of them is saying. It's almost kind of like the story of the Tower of Babel, when it's kind of confusing because they're all talking in different languages and they're talking at the same time or something like that. And this is the case of the pumpkin patch. There are all these pumpkin heads. There's a movie called Pumpkinhead. Did you ever see the movie Pumpkinhead? It's a movie that was with Lance Henriksen. It came out in the the 80s, and it's about this kid that actually gets he's kind of like a deformed kid. He's deformed. He's born. I'll get back to the story. Oh, you haven't seen it? Pumpkin. It's a great movie. By the way, it was the special effects are done by Stan Winston, who's done a lot of different great special effects in horror movies, a sci-fi horror. But Pumpkinhead is kind of I'll give you kind of like a summary of the story, the plot. This kid that was just born deformed. No, Cher wasn't in it. Lance Henriksen. Did you ever have Lance Henriksen, a great American actor? I don't know if I think he's still alive. He was also in a movie called Near Dark. Getting back to my point, I think the basic premise of Pumpkinhead is this kid gets kind of bullied as a kid because he was born with a deformity. He's kind of born like a hideous freak, and he gets picked, and you really feel bad for the kid. You really feel this empathy for this kid, and you really take his side because you really want to see him get his revenge. And lo and behold, he does exact revenge because he was actually accidentally killed. The bullies accidentally killed him, but he comes back as Pumpkinhead. He comes back as Pumpkinhead to exact revenge, and he's kind of like this 30 or 40 foot tall monster that's called Pumpkinhead, and does he exact his revenge. But anyways, so that gives me a great idea. I should write a sequel to Pumpkinhead too. And here's what the sequel. Here's the premise of the sequel. I could start with all the shit that I just said before all this, and I could say the new Pumpkinhead would be this pumpkin patch with a million heads to it. It kind of just grew out of the earth, and it was this pumpkin patch with a million demonic heads. It keeps threatening to overtake the earth, to cover the earth with all these pumpkin heads, and it's Pumpkinhead to the nth degree, kind of and yeah, I think I should. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing that. I mean. It'd be pumpkin. There's been about 3 or 4 pumpkin heads You got to write. By the way, it's like if you got to get a copy of Pumpkinhead. I mean, it's like there's a Pumpkinhead 2 actually, and Pumpkinhead 2 actually features. Okay, so Hillary Clinton grew up in Park Ridge, Illinois. She went to Maine South High School. Husband of Bill Clinton, right? And Bill Clinton actually has a brother named. It's not Bill. Well, obviously, it's not Bill. The two brothers aren't both named Bill. One of the other, his brother's name. I forgot what his brother's name. Alex or something, or whatever the fuck his name is. Like Bill Clinton's got a brother, and he's in Pumpkinhead 2. Is that weird or what? Bill Clinton's brother is in this horror movie called Pumpkinhead 2, and I think that's funny and weird. But and he, by the way, he's like he's a kind of a really weird, interesting guy though. He's got this, but he's not really that weird, I guess. But he's a little bit kind of like eccentric, but he's a lot shorter than Bill. But he kind of looks like him facially, but he looks like he's like half his height or something. He's got curly hair. He's kind of chunky, but he's a musician too. He's like a country rock musician or something like that. Bill Clinton's brother. What's his? I forget what his brother's name is, but anyways, so yeah, so that's Pumpkinhead. So anyways, getting back, so that would be like one of the sequels of Pumpkinhead. So it would actually be like this, the pumpkin patch, Pumpkinhead 4, the Pumpkin Patch. I mean, that's I don't know if that's a good enough title yet, but it's a start. I got to work with that. I got to work with the idea of a pumpkin patch and work that into the title. Something with pumpkin patch in the title, I think, would be a good title. Pumpkinhead 4, the Pumpkin Patch. But still think I can do better than that. But that's a start. Something I got to play around with that idea of a pumpkin patch. Anyways, and the pumpkin patch is it's like the pumpkin patch with a million demonic heads, and so, but they're in the shape of a pumpkin. So it's like, around like Halloween, you don't even have to carve a jack-o'-lantern. You got like a million demonic pumpkin heads growing out of a pumpkin patch from a Pumpkinhead 4. Anyways, I know there's a little bit of like non sequitur ideas in there, but I'm just kind of like it's almost like what you're hearing is like a kind of like a stream of consciousness, the flowing of my id. And anyways, so I think that would be great. So, now this is good. This is good. So when you all of a sudden you're back at the office. Let's get back to the origin of the story. Let's go back to the very beginning of the story when I said that you go to the office and you find out that you're the only one in a human form, flesh and blood. Everybody else they're all in the form of different plants, like the Venus flytrap, what have you. And you're the only person that's in the flesh and blood, and then everybody else, like all the plants are people, and the people are plants, vice versa. You know what I'm saying? But they all take off these costumes to reveal that they were people all along. They were human beings all along, but they were dressed as plants, and that what you're involved in is Pumpkinhead 4, Rise of the Pumpkin Patch, or something like that. And in Pumpkinhead 4, there's it's another kid that grew up as a hideous freak, and he was bullied, he or she, whatever it happens to be. But then he comes back as a pumpkin patch with a million heads to exact revenge on the world. But so there's kind of like a moral balance because, so when you exact revenge, so there's a moral to the story too, like much as there's a moral to the Twilight Zone stories, because the Twilight Zone stories, if you ever saw the Twilight Zone, it's all in the name of good. There's a moral, there's a social conscience to the stories. So, and this would be that the moral dilemma and the moral question is like, is it right? Does might make right? And is it like, do you kill does somebody deserve to be killed because they killed? Do you have to always have to balance it out? It's like you kill somebody and then somebody gets killed and then you kill them, and then like you have to have like this, like the balance sheet has to reflect like an equal number of a tit for tat, or what's the solution to the heinous crimes that are committed in society? How do you solve this? Is it, you know, because you could come to a moral balance, like where somebody was actually harassed or bullied as a kid, but he comes back and he kills innocent people along with good people. And that's obviously where the moral balance comes in, because like a person that was bullied or something and he comes back and he does harm to other people, so it's not good. He shouldn't have been bullied, but he killed maybe he killed some of the people that bullied him along with some innocent people. So this pumpkin, so actually I'm giving it, now I don't even have to make the story, the movie, because I gave it all away. I gave the whole plot away of the story. But anyways, so the pumpkin patch that he has transmogrified into with like a million and maybe some eventually like a billion pumpkin heads, demonic heads, that is, they tried to exact revenge on the world, actually, which could actually mean like the apocalypse. It could actually mean it could be an apocalyptic event. Despite the fact that it's such a terrible thing of the injustice that he went through, and like the harassment that he experienced as a youth, he's got to know, not to take it out of the wrong people. So I always like a story with a moral balance, with like something where you say like you kind of like at first, like the early part of the movie, you might sympathize with the character that where the worm turns, and you sympathize with the character that was bullied or harassed, but then so that's always makes for an interesting story too. But so that's kind of like the gist of the story. So, and outside of just like, that's one of the reasons I love horror movies, but horror movies are intelligently done with a good story. It's got to, not just a mindless slasher with some idiot running around with a hockey mask and a machete, but a story that has like something that has a real plot to it. It has some kind of like social conscience and some kind of social commentary to it. So that's why I think my story for Pumpkinhead 4 would be good. But anyways, outside of that, I just kind of like the visual imagery that you see in a horror movie. I like it is kind of fun to watch all the special effects and all the, it's kind of fun to actually be able to do things in a movie and just kind of even like have like a revenge fantasy played out in a movie, and everybody comes out unscathed, and you make this beautiful piece of art, and it's therapeutic, and it's like a catharsis, and nobody gets hurt. Wait, what? A little late, but taking off plant head to reveal humans as deaf Twilight. So, oh, thanks. Oh, okay. A little late, but the taking off plant head to reveal humans as deaf Twilight Zone plot twist. Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I've seen all the episodes of Twilight Zone. I think it seeped into my subconscious, and when I write things, it finds its way into some of my writing. I think it's influenced by the Twilight Zone, definitely, because I always love the trippiness of it and kind of like the plot twist and just like, wait a minute, what? That kind of like that moment when the unexpected reveals itself. That's the thing I love the most about the Twilight Zone. It's like, it's never what you thought it was going to be. Yeah, okay, anyways. But yeah, so that's Pumpkinhead Forest. Yeah, it's like yeah, I like that too. I like when you, because I wasn't, when I was first writing this story in my head tonight, when I first started this live stream, I wasn't at all thinking about like having the plants pull off the mask to real themselves as human beings, and that it was just like the guy that was like worked at that office finds himself in the process of making Pumpkinhead 4. I wasn't thinking about that at all, but that just kind of like came to mind through my whole stream of consciousness thought process. So that's okay. So I really enjoyed doing this live stream, and I'm glad I see. It looks like I have 2 listeners on this live stream, and one's name is Alex Gates. Thanks for listening, Alex, and I hope you enjoy this. I'm going to keep doing these. See, this is part of my series of live streams on YouTube, which is called "Keep Laughing," and it's, believe it or not, it's a comedy improv show that I do. But a lot of like science fiction and all this stuff finds its way into my improv. It's not. I don't talk about political stuff. I'm not the most. I'm not a political type of humorist. I like to just go off on a tangent. So I talk about stuff like this. Um, and so I do this on occasion. I do the show called Keep Laughing. It's my improvisational comedy show. So I'm glad you tuned in, Alex, and whoever the other, looks like I have 2 listeners in the audience, and I'll be doing another live stream soon, and not sure what it's going to be called, but it's going to be called Keep Laughing. So I hope you subscribe to my YouTube channel too. And there's a lot of there's just so many like music videos on there. There's live music performances. There's scripts that I wrote. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed listening to this, because there's more. I mean, if you really like this, there's much more where this came from. I mean, I've got like so many videos on there, and it's just kind of like a lot of fun to do these videos. And I'm glad it's always fun to see that I have like people in the audience. And I hope you subscribe, because when you subscribe, you'll get notifications on when I'm going to be putting a new video on, and when I'm doing a live stream, stuff like that. And you'll see that if you look through my videos, there's a lot on there. And there's a lot of like stuff that like a lot of cover songs and songs that I wrote. And when I first started doing this, I wasn't like writing scripts or anything. I was just trying to write songs. My first thing was I wanted to just write songs and write the best songs I could. But then I thought, like, hey, wait a minute. I like writing. And when I was a kid, I remember I wanted to be a novelist when I was a kid. So I thought, why don't I? But then I thought, it's really hard to sell a book. So I thought, if I just write scripts and I write in dialogue form, I could just put it on YouTube and I get people to hear it and hear my writing. And turns out there's been more and more people tuning in. So I hope you continue to do so and look for like more live streams in the future. Thanks for listening, and there's more to come. And what else was I going to say? So there's going to be a lot more live streams to come in the future, both music and plot and scripts that I wrote and am going to write. And I hope whoever listened this evening subscribes to my YouTube channel. Thanks.